ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। भगवान और द creator, the source of all experience, what is technically referred to as Saguna Brahman, is considered to, is understood to perform five great acts. Panchakrityam, it is called. So, our understanding of God, Saguna Brahman or Ishvara, that he performs five actions, five great acts: creation, sustenance, absorption, veiling of the reality, and revealing of the true nature of the self, and also bestowing the grace, divine grace. So the five jobs of God: Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Stirodana, Anugraha, it is called. So, connected with that, there are five faces of Lord Shiva represented. These five jobs of the Supreme Being are represented as the five faces of Lord Shiva. Sadyojata, Vamadeva, Agora, Tatpurusha, Ishanya. And there are mantras for this that comes in Yajurveda, Rigveda. So just because it is Pradosham, we will meditate on Lord Shiva while we listen to these mantras. Very short. And think of the Supreme Being as the force of grace that has given us this life, takes care of us, and also puts us and sustains us on this spiritual path and helps us attain our goals or the goal, moksha, by blessing us with self-knowledge. That is Ishanya. Just think of that. If you are familiar with the form of Lord Shiva, just think of the form of Lord Shiva while you listen to this. Om Sadhyo Jatam Prapathyami Sadhyo Jata Javai Namo Namaha Bhave Bhavenati Bhave Bhavaswamam Bhavat Bhavaya Namaha Vamadevaya Namo Jeshthaya Namah Shreshthaya Namo Rudraya Namah Kalaya Namah Kalavigaranaya Namo Balavigaranaya Namo Balaya Namo Balapramadanaaya Namah Sarvabhutadamanaya Namo Manonmanaya Namaha अघोरेभ्यो तघोरेभ्यो घोरघोरतरेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यः सर्वेभ्यो नमस्ते अस्तु रुद्ररूपेभ्यः तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे महादेवाय धीमहि तन्नो रुद्रः प्रचोदयात् ईशानः सर्वविद्यानाम् ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां ब्रह्माधिपतिर्ब्रह्मणोऽधिपतिर्ब्रह्मा शिवो मे अस्तु सदा शिवो। ओम नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यंबकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकालाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। नमः शिवाय। Om Tat Sat. So, as we are in tune with the divine grace, let us discuss the practical aspects of becoming ready for self knowledge. We talked about adhikaritvam. Adhikari means a person who is qualified. The qualified person who is capable of receiving and understanding and assimilating the essence of the teaching, the self knowledge, which means upon hearing the teaching, the person becomes enlightened. So, such a person is a qualified person. In adhikari, like in sadhana, in every category, we have this uttama, madhyama, adhama, best, mediocre, not good, not very good, low level, best, medium, low. We have this category uttama, madhyama, adhama. So uttama adhikari, madhyama adhikari, adhama adhikari. We have this. And there are various parameters for uttama adhikari, for a madhyama adhikari, for adhama adhikari. But essentially, we need to understand these parameters in terms of the factors that we experience in our life during our times, and in terms of the everyday realities that we face. Only then we can have a realistic self appraisal. Okay. So, generally in Vedanta classes, in the beginners class, etc., in the Tattva Bodha, Prakarana Grantha class, they will talk about Sadhana Chatushtaya. I have already discussed elaborately in many classes during our Nishta sessions about the Sadhana Chatushtaya. Viveka, Vairagya, Mumukshutva, Shamadhi, Shatka Sampatti. Viveka, objective attitude towards one's own body and mind based on the understanding that I am not this individual defined by the body mind complex. Atma Anatma Viveka, which is basically Anatma Nishchaya, that is, at least being very clear what you are not. That is Viveka. Also Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka, permanent, temporary. And a kind of clarity about the illusory nature of the world. The kind that a quantum scientist has nowadays. He says, what you see is matter. What we call as matter is basically not matter. It is just a wave function, they say. It's just an appearance. It appears, the world is only an appearance. It's called Mithyatva Nishchaya. But they stop there. There is no concept of, there is no understanding of consciousness. And the relationship between the appearance and the adhishtanam or the base, which is consciousness, all that is not the domain of science. So, Atma Anatma Viveka, Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka, basically. What is permanent, what is temporary, what is eternal, and what is transient. What is self? Here it means basically as something that is other than what is objectively experienced, only to that extent, because you are not yet realized. You are only a person who is ready for realization, right? So basically understanding the body mind complex as not oneself. And there is no self definition that is entertained in terms of the body or the mind or the possession. So if the body mind itself is not you, whatever belongs to the body and mind in terms of name and fame, in terms of prosperity, in terms of achievements, in terms of beauty, strength, etc., all these are not a source of self definition. That would be Viveka. You are not looking for yourself and your identity in these things. Yeah, that is Viveka. So you can translate this Viveka into your everyday experience. Oh, how am I looking today? I'm looking a little dull. I'm not looking very bright today. Oh, I'm looking awesome today. Generally, when you look at the mirror, when that feeling comes, you see what I'm seeing in the mirror is the face, and then the body, the skin, and all that. So, see how the sense of self is projected upon the body, which is not you. The body is constantly changing. It is born, grows, it changes, it gets old, and it dies. We see all around, and we have also seen in ourselves. Right? Every day, every moment, our body is changing. At least we observe it. When we look at our childhood photos and now, or when you look at your younger years and now, it's different. So you understand that the body, but your sense of I is always the same. So you understand that you are not the body. So whenever you are in front of the mirror to adjust the clothes or the way you turn out, how you look, etc., that can be an exercise in Viveka. How my sense of self in projected on all that is not myself, how my sense of self gets extended and projected and stamped upon things that are not actually me. A simple thing we can experience, the example that I always give is when you watch a cricket match or a football match or a kabaddi match or something, you are identified with one team, or when you are watching a competitive match like a tennis or something, you identify with one player. And when that team or that player is winning, you feel an elation inside your heart. When that team or that player is losing, you feel a constriction in your heart. It is as though you are winning and you are losing. And when your team is about to win, then you call your kid, your friends, and everybody, hey, come here, what are you doing? Look at this, we are winning. Are you winning? Some team is winning, right? But my sense of self extends to the team. So adhyasa, it is called. I superimpose my sense of self on something that is not me. So what is not me feels as myself. This feeling, oh, I feel like this, I feel like that, we say, right? So this feeling like myself, all these romantic dialogues, you are my heart, you are my soul, you are me, I am you, and all that. All this is called adhyasa, superimposition. You will hear in all Vedanta class, superimposition. This is what is superimposition. Every time you look in the mirror and say, oh, I look good today, superimposition. You are imposing your sense of self on the image of the body that is seen in the mirror and seeing that as yourself and feeling as yourself. Body looking good, you feel good. A few millions in the bank account, I feel rich, I prosperous. Bank is somewhere, money is somewhere, but I feel prosperous. Yeah. So this is called adhyasa. Recognizing how this adhyasa is happening real time in my everyday life, in various situations, just recognizing for what it is a wonderful sadhana. It's an exercise in Viveka. Constantly applying that, Viveka khyate raviplavahanopaya. That is a Yoga Sutra. It says by ceaselessly, without gap, constantly applying your reality consciousness means I'm using the word, I'm using the term reality consciousness for this. The sense you try to see through the error that the mind is nurturing in order to arrive at a certain sense of self gratification, or to arrive at a comfort zone, or get rid of a discomfort, or to arrive at a comfort. The mind, the intellect creates the ego principle. Based on the ego principle, it creates a certain false idea and superimposes that on the reality. So the job is to demystify the mind and stay with the reality and recognize this habit as it comes. As it comes in real time, you recognize how you are projecting. Just watch it, just understand it, see from where it comes. What is the motivation for me to feel, just to recognize that I am seeing myself in terms of my body. Body is easy, so I am going with body. So if you are able to exercise that constantly with the body, then you can, when you are short, for example, you go and stand next to a tall person, you feel short, you feel small. So now why do you feel small? Because you are identified with this body which is shorter than the other person. Then that becomes a fulcrum for inquiry. You watch that feeling and see how the I takes upon itself, the sense of I takes upon itself the qualities of the body. Right? You become very aware of this process. Stay with that. And as you recognize it, you are seeing the falseness of it. Like that, constantly, without break, you keep coming back to reality by recognizing the false projections. Constantly, you recognize the false projections of the mind as they appear again and again. Constantly recognize them and see them for what it is. Keep on doing that. Viveka will start developing like a force. It's like a light that will not allow darkness to creep in. It's called Jnana Deepti, the flame of attention, uh, the flame of right cognition. Right. So Viveka called Jnana Deepti, the flame of jnana, knowledge, right knowledge. So that becomes brighter and brighter. It's a meditation. It's a dynamic meditation through the various situations of life. You are alert. You are awake to the various habitual projections about yourself. Viveka. Now, if you go one step deeper, it's all the personal stories. The personal success stories and trauma stories from this life. As though it is not enough, there are people who go into past life regression and then dig up some trauma from past life. Apparently, they say in my last life, somebody stabbed me, somebody abandoned me, and that is why I am feeling anxious in this life. So then you go through affirmation and all that, and you get a different personality. So they work with all this past trauma. That's a big industry now. So everybody is now into this trauma story, past trauma story. It's like all the time, licking the wounds like a dog. An injured dog or a cat, it keeps licking its wounds. So there is an entire industry of ego massage that goes on, where they are, helping people to keep licking their wounds. And then in some cases, they overcome it by developing a very different attitude towards it, and then they change it into a better thing. But the problem is, you're going to create the same kind of trauma again, because the false self is the fulcrum around which all the success stories and trauma stories, all the personal stories are created. Every personal story that I create around what I call as myself is a lie, because this individual self that I feel myself to be is a lie. You are not what you feel you are, what you think you are. You are not what you project yourself to be. Now that is a bomb. Yeah. To reconcile to this fact, this very fact that my personal stories are all false, because all my personal stories that I so dearly hold on to and have developed this entire identity upon, all these personal stories are based on what? Asmita, this false sense of egoistic self that is the result of ignorance and projection. So when myself, the very fulcrum, the very fundamental I am as an individual entity, that itself is a result of false projection and ignorance. All that is based on this I am are also false. When the I am is false, all the stories connected to this I am is meaningless. Can you see that? So you as an individual, based on this body, mind, and all the identities that you have, is a false construct. Now, all the stories that this individual has gone through obviously becomes false, because it is all based on the fundamental false premise of yourself as this falsely constructed individual that is going from life after life after life. It's called Vijnanamaya, but the fake self. Yeah? To recognize this is Viveka. This itself is a bomb. The very first qualification for adhikaritvam, for listening to Vedanta, is already a bomb. Now, when you do that, the next comes Vairagya. It goes alongside. Now, what Vairagya helps you to get this Viveka? Vairagya means not desiring. Why it is not Vaidveshya? Not desiring means not liking, not hating, both. Raga, Dvesha. No Raga, no Dvesha. Why it is this Vairagya, not desiring, is not hating? That is very important. I don't like it. I don't dislike it. I don't like it also includes I don't dislike it, because hatred or dislike for something is based on my liking for the opposite thing or something different. Because I like that, this thing which is blocking my experience of what I like, because I like A, I dislike B. I dislike B because in some way this B is blocking my experience of what I like, which is A. Right? So the basis of dislike is liking. So liking and desiring is more fundamental. So when we say viraga, vairagya means neither liking nor dislike, neither wanting or wanting to have or wanting to get rid of. So that is vairagya, and it has two levels: apara vairagya and para vairagya, lower vairagya and higher vairagya. So what is talked about as a basic qualification for being ready for self knowledge is apara vairagya. Lower vairagya is good enough, which is developed, like how I said, see through the fake sense of self coming up and recognize for what it is, as a process to develop viveka. One exercise I gave you to stand in front of them whenever you are coming in front of the mirror, whenever you find yourself appreciating or depreciating your self value based on body, mind, and achievements, etc., to recognize that false process that is based on that, to recognize the lie in that as a process for developing viveka. Similarly, there is an exercise for vairagya. What can you do to develop vairagya? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Dosha, Anudarshanam. This entire process of living, starting from birth to death, the, whenever there is a birth, death is inevitable. To recognize this. So, and as you recognize this, you also see the whole painful process in birth. Anudarshanam means every day, whenever possible, in every opportunity, don't miss any opportunity to see through the pointlessness of any time-bound worldly achievement. The whole pointlessness of it and the stupidity of it. Yeah. The dosha, the defective nature of various experiences of the world. Janma, look at the whole process of birth. If you relive the time that you were in the womb, if you read Bhartrihari's Vairagya Satakam and all that, tells you very elaborately how horrible it is to stay in the womb of the mother and to go through the entire process where you are pushed out into the world. And taking the first breath is pain, Inside the womb, you're wallowing in your own refuse and and all that amniotic sac and everything. They say it seems, the fetus, the embryo, the life inside the embryo, it regrets, it seems. And it remembers all his past actions and has an astral awareness. The child in the womb is very connected to the astral world. And it remembers its time between the last life and this life, remembers the memories from the past life. That is the cause for this life. And all that gets wiped away when the baby takes the first breath. And there is some vague memories left. So that's why some children have some more past life memory than adults. And as the new impressions get formed on the head, they keep forgetting that past memory. Some children have a little extraordinary ability about the life before the birth, the past life that is responsible for this life, all that. So the entire process of conception to birth is very clearly, elaborately mentioned as a very painful and a very, we might have forgotten that, but when we read about it, we can intellectually appreciate it. Maybe we don't have a vivid memory, not all of us. Very rarely, some of us might have. Maybe somebody went through some hypnosis and got a feeling of it. But ideally, most cases we will not have. So we have to intellectually appreciate it and try to see the point of it. The point is the whole birth process is very painful and very unpleasant. And nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to live forever. And death is inevitable, including the gods. They will die. All the demigods, not God, the big letter G God, small letter G gods, the demigods, you say the devas and all that. All of them are going to experience death. They are called Amara, eternal, who have conquered the death because they have drank the Amrita and all that. That is valid only for one kalpam. There is a time period called kalpa. So when the day of the Brahma is getting over, one kalpa is getting over, all the celestial beings will experience death like you and me. Yeah. So that their eternal life is not eternal. It is just long life. So it has to come to an end. It's like a nice movie. A movie can be very interesting and very nice. It can be long, but only a boring movie, we are very conscious of the time passing. We say it's like, oh my God, when will it get over? You're looking at your watch. But the movie is very engrossing. Then even a Bollywood movie that goes on for 3 hours is not, right? 3 hours goes like 3 minutes, we say. So because we are very engrossed. So similarly, when you get the body of a celestial being like a god, they say, oh, you can live for so many yugas, for millions of years and kalpas and all that, it's all only on paper. But as an experience, it will just pass away like that, like a twinkling of an eye, because you're very engrossed in a very nice experience. And then suddenly it's time up, prepaid card over. Huh? So there is no eternal. No experience is eternal. You understand that? Yeah. So death is a problem. Old age cannot be escaped. Okay, you can eat some vegan food, do some yoga, go through some therapies and all that, and you can postpone a bit. You can look uh, reasonably young when you are 65 or 70. You can look like 40, 30, and that's about it. You cannot escape old age. No matter how many masks you wear and how closed you are, somehow or the other, some bacteria or virus catches you. Maybe not very often. Some people are blessed with a good health, but even them, they cannot overcome entirely the possibility of even a small sickness. Vyadhi. It's all part of life. The whole life cycle process has certain inevitable things that are considered as dosha or defect. The entire life process is filled with defects. Vyadhi, dukkha, there is always some kind of struggle and pain involved as we go through the life experiences. It's a mixed bag for everybody. Everybody has their own mixed bag. So we have to consciously train ourselves to maintain a positive attitude to go through this thing called life. Yeah. So everybody likes to have a nice, what do you call that? Everybody likes to have jackfruit. That is this fruit, jackfruit. Those who are not familiar with the jackfruit, who are from abroad, in India we have something called jackfruit. It has a very rough outer thing and it keeps sticking to your hand as you open it. So you have to put oil in your hand. Opening a jackfruit is a big problem. So everybody likes to enjoy the jackfruit once it is opened and peeled and all ready to have. But opening the jackfruit is not such a nice experience. Not everybody can do, and even if you can delegate the job to somebody else, you would happily do that. Similarly, having a lot of variety of dishes and having an elaborate meal, like this Onam Sadhya, they say, there are so many dishes on your plate. Recently, the Onam winter, the Kerala festival Onam was there, and I saw advertisements for this Onam Sadhya everywhere. So many dishes on your plate. But if you are the person who is going to wash the vessels that were used for cooking all those dishes, how would you like that? So somebody has to go through that dukkha. Nobody wants to wash the vessels, right? So somebody has to go through that dukkha, unpleasant experiencing of washing the vessels. For you and me to eat that sadhya. So we might have bought but the guy who is washing the vessel, if that person is a millionaire, he probably will not wash the vessel. Or probably, you are like, you want to do some activity therapy. You are a millionaire. You have nothing to do. You are bored. So you volunteer to wash the vessels. I'm not talking about that. As a general thing, as an obligation, where you have to wash the vessels, is something that most people don't like to do, but still they have to do. So a mature person tries to put on a nice face and do it. That is a different thing. How I exercise my maturity to wash vessels is a different thing. But washing vessels is a pain, is a fact, right? It's just an example. So don't torture this example too much. So just as an example, so you can draw your own parallels in your life. So these unpleasant experiences are the seed of unpleasantness, a seed of dukkha or difficulty and sorrow is there in every undertaking. Every desire has within it the seeds of sorrow, pain, suffering. So this is the biggest marketing point of Buddhism. So it is just this is this is also vairagya. This vairagya is again when you are trying to see through this truth, this reality, you are applying viveka. It is a kind of viveka. reality consciousness. You are seeing the hard reality of the various life processes and life stages and experiences, where you are seeing through the fancy packaging and recognizing the hard reality inside the fancy package. When you recognize the hard reality, you develop a distaste, or you develop a kind of a detachment and a nonchalant attitude, and you are not keen, you are not very keen to grab anything or to hanker after any specific experience. So you are not keen for any experience. So your achievements are not out there. This understanding gives a certain samskara, innate tendency in us called nirodha samskara. Nirodha samskara means the readiness or the tendency in the mind to stay calm and peaceful at its source. You are able to stay with yourself. You are comfortable staying with yourself and not hankering after this or that. That is called nirodha samskara. The mind is comfortable being quiet. The mind is more naturally inclined to stay quiet than running behind things. Usually, for a normal person, the mind is naturally pushed towards various objects. If you take a child in a supermarket, he's running to this shelf and that shelf. Every primary color, anything that is on a bright color attracts the child and it runs towards it. It's all very exciting. So that's very important for a growing brain. I'm not talking about that. I'm just telling you about the nature of the mind. Generally, a person is bored. When a person is bored, what does it mean? The mind wants something to chew upon, but there is nothing around. So the person is bored. So you look for entertainment, right? So now that is the natural tendency of the mind. Nirodha samskara means a mind that has developed the opposite tendency. The mind that has developed the tendency to stay quiet. More naturally, the mind is inclined to be quiet. It's like a subconscious, a more natural and a instinctive liking of inner peace and inner quiet. That is called nirodha samskara. So how do you know if you have this nirodha samskara? How do you know if you have developed vairagya? If you have developed vairagya, you will have nirodha samskara. How do you know you have nirodha samskara? Switch off your mobile, switch off all the things, and go and sit in your room quietly. Sit comfortably, but not too comfortably that you will fall asleep. There is not much visual stimuli, nothing. You don't have a nice bird singing there, all this natural entertainment that you'd get in a resort. No, not that. Simple, any comfortable place, decent place. You don't have any strong visual stimuli. You don't have any music and all that. Just quiet. When you are in a quiet place all by yourself, are you just comfortable with that moment as it is? Are you comfortable with the quietude without seeking anything? How long are you comfortable with that? Forget about hunger, thirst, and all that. So, provided you will not be hungry and thirsty, or you don't have to go to the bathroom, etc., how long can you sit there quietly and be comfortable with the silence? That naturally, not forcing yourself, not biting your teeth and sitting and showing for your friends, I sat on quietly in the room for 4 hours. No record. Not that. While you are sitting alone, how comfortable are you in your background mind with this state of sitting quietly? How okay are you naturally to do nothing? Just sit. While you are awake and not asleep. While you are awake. Now that is a marker for nirodha samskara, which is a marker for vairagya. Right? when Vairagya and Viveka combine, you are not keen to experience anything particularly. You are not very keen to, or you are not feeling any urgency or emergency to get rid of some unpleasant experience. Or I will put it like this: you will develop what is called titiksha. That is one of the things. I will have a certain ability to come back to equanimity and inner balance if I am exposed to a unpleasant thing. I'll, I will bounce back. I'll come back to my center. I will not lose my center too much. So that is a mark of Viveka and Vairagya to some extent. And one more is I will not have an external ambition or a personal ambition where I create a success story for myself. I am not busy looking to create a success story for myself as an individual. That is a sign of Viveka and Vairagya. See, this is not for everybody. I'm just telling you what is the adhikaritvam for Vedanta study. How, for what kind of person Vedanta will work. That's what we are discussing here. So if you don't understand how is it, why should a person be without ambitions? How can a person be without ambition? Should a person not have ambitions in life? It is good to have ambitions in life. If you say all that, wonderful, you are not wrong, but this is not for Vedanta. Please don't waste your time in Vedanta. Vedanta won't work for you. Please study Dharma and then please study some yoga to help you follow Dharma so that you can pursue your goals. Yeah. And let us wait until you understand moksha. So moksha is interesting, but I need this also, that also won't work. I need this only. A person with Viveka and Vairagya will not discrimination. Viveka, the reality consciousness, and Vairagya, detachment. A person with these two qualities will not have any goal other than moksha, will have a very natural, innate tendency to appreciate moksha above anything else. I will put it like that. So, for a person with clear, ascertained understanding, there is only one goal, it says in Bhagavad Gita. So I'm not even going there. Even if it is not your only goal, you will have absolutely no hesitation in appreciating liberation or self-knowledge as the only worthy goal above everything else. Or at least you will say this is the greatest of all goals. You will be able to say that with clarity. So that much will be there if you have Viveka and Vairagya. That is a marker. So I gave you some markers for Viveka, some markers for Vairagya. Samadhi Shakta Sampatti, we have discussed very elaborately in some discussion. Shamadama, Uparama, Titiksha, Samadama, Shraddha, etc. We have discussed that. Please refer to the previous class, not the previous one immediately, long ago, many episodes back. Mumukshutva means the sense of importance I give instinctively for me being liberated from this fake experience of duality. This fake experience of sense of limitation and being an individual, experiencing myself within this process of life, within this bracket of life and death, within this dreams, within this dream of life and death and all these things of duality, experiencing myself within this, the desire to be free of this, desire to be free of my limited sense of self. How strong is that urge? It's a kind of a soul restlessness, they say. I cannot wait one more minute to waste. I cannot waste one more minute in this kind of life. So that kind of thing, that is mumukshutva. And when it's really mature, you are, a well-informed mumukshutva means you see that self-knowledge alone, the jnana, self-realization alone is the only worthy thing to pursue. Nothing else is makes sense for you other than this. It will, the mumukshutva or the desire for liberation will mature from a kind of a spiritual restlessness to uh, a clarity-based commitment for self-realization as my only goal, as the most worthy goal. And I feel anything else that I'm doing is a waste of time if I am not, anything where I am not devoting my intellect and the thinking and the body and whatever is the effort in a conscious direction towards either getting myself ready for self-knowledge, developing the qualities necessary for self-knowledge, or for understanding and assimilating the self-knowledge that I have learned. If I am not devoting time for this, anything else, if I am doing, I consider it as an absolute waste of time. So that would be jigyasu, wanting to know or wanting to be established in the knowledge. Yeah. So that is a mature, informed desire for liberation. That it's just a random restlessness for liberation becomes a clarity of the importance of self-knowledge above everything else. So that is mumukshutva. Just a recap of the Shamadhi Shakta Sampatti, the sixfold inner wealth. So a person who is dedicated or appreciates self-realization above everything else has to develop this bank balance, what you call as inner wealth. How, if you want to have a comfortable life in this world, we need to develop a good bank balance, external wealth. You need a good bank balance, asset base. You need a home, good house, car, and stock options and whatever, all that asset base, gold and everything, all that people talk about. Yeah. So you need all that. So similarly, Sampat, the sixfold inner wealth, it is called. Mind control, sense control, shamadama, freedom from unnecessary commitments. What in Tamil we say, pikal pudungal. So freedom from unnecessary nagging everyday commitments like family and all that. A certain kind of basically a lifestyle where you are able to give time for yourself. Uparama. And a certain level of resilience towards heat and cold, pain and pleasure, pleasant, unpleasant experiences that life may throw at you randomly. Ability to endure that and not completely lose your head or your health. Excuse me. So that is called titiksha, endurance and resilience. It comes from the practice of yoga and tapasya. Then samadhana means your mind is settled down for this pursuit of self-realization, and you are not keen on everything else. It's a kind of a settling down of the system. Yeah, okay, I am on the right path. I am pursuing the only thing that is worthy, and this is the only thing that is worthy. That ascertainment, being comfortable in your pursuit. So if you come across your college mate or school mate, who is working for Google or Microsoft, comes and meets you comes and meets you in a fancy car and then takes you out. So he shows you about his family and everything and all that. You are sitting in an ashram and studying Brahma Sutra and all that. Upanishads. From a normal worldly point of view, they will say, oh, look at how successful he is. Everybody understands worldly success. It is extremely few who can really understand and appreciate the success which is renunciation and commitment to self knowledge. The life of renunciation and commitment to self knowledge, where you are not very keen on any external goal, but you are very keen on your self realization. Not everybody can appreciate. Extremely few are the ones capable of seeing the value in this. So when you come across all this, which is based on things, for a when anytime when we come across somebody who is very confident in their skin, who are very comfortable in their skin, we say, which means when they are very confident with the way they are, and if you even have a slight lack of confidence and lack of clarity, and you are not settled in the way you are, if your mind is not subconsciously well settled in your pursuit, when you come across somebody else who is very, very well settled in their pursuit, very comfortable with the way they are, there is a possibility that you will feel some kind of a self-doubt. Man, what am I doing with my life? It can come up suddenly. That means the samadhana is lacking. So if a person has this samadhana, the wealth, inner wealth called samadhana, you are, you can be the friend of Sundar Pichai. Sundar Pichai could be your schoolmate. If you meet him, you are as comfortable in your pursuit in your spiritual pursuit and your lifestyle, your commitment, whatever you have. You are as comfortable with it as he is comfortable as CEO of Google. This is what is samadhana. Your level of comfort and settled, how well settled you are in your mind, how well settled is your subconscious mind in your goal of self-realization, which is moksha, reflects, is realized, that will protect you from losing your balance or getting carried away by others who are very comfortable in their own pursuits. An artharthi, a person who is a seeker of wealth, a big businessman who worships money, dreams money, thinks only about money. That guy, if he's very successful, he's going to be very comfortable telling you that, what a great life he has. So you must be able to feel the same level of comfort and I'm having a great life. I'm on the right path. You must be able to feel that level of confidence in your commitment to self-knowledge. That is called samadhana. That's how you experience it. You experience samadhana as the absolute, unshakable feeling of being settled in this line of inquiry. Ekagrata, it's called. And Shraddha. Shraddha is unwavering faith and surrender to the teachings of the Shastra and the Guru Parampara and the tradition. The Prasthanatraya, Upanishad, Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and all the accompanying texts. And the way it is unfolded in the tradition, the methodology. So the basic truth of yourself as revealed by the scriptures. Absolute unwavering faith that this is true. Because you don't know yet. Yeah? So if you already know, it is like a truth, it is like a faith pending discovery. So you need to have the faith that it is true, because you cannot verify that with any other means of knowledge. You cannot ask somebody to see and tell you, you cannot see it, you cannot logically deduce it, because logically you can come to many conclusions. So Shraddha is something that that is developed by very clearly ruling out every other possibility and seeing how true this can be. And it's also, there is an element of grace involved in that, and you develop Shraddha over time. So by the time you are coming to self-knowledge, you will already have Shraddha. So when you go through a spiritual life, dharmic life, and you go through the processes of yoga, and when you see the result in your mind, so it will automatically develop Shraddha. And if you have a problem with Shraddha, then we have these Mantra Shastras and Yoga Shastras in Yoga Sutra and all that, where they talk about various small level powers. You do certain practices, you experience some results. So when you experience a very deep, profound result as a result of chanting mantras or meditation, and when you experience a certain higher level of consciousness, these kind of spiritual elevating experiences, they have a deep impact on our system. And because we achieved those experiences as a result of practices prescribed in the scriptures, you develop a very unshakable faith in them, in all the words of the scripture. Yeah. So these sublime experiences fortify the Shraddha. So I would say, for in our information age, when there is a lot of information available everywhere, endless information, go to internet, put Vedanta, you will have a million hits. So because of this endless information, I would say it is better to go through some rigorous process of spiritual discipline that will allow us to have some worthy inner experiences that we can cherish. That will allow us to experience certain subtle dimensions, higher dimensions, a deeper experience, a very soul stirring experience, the divine experiences. When we go through these processes of yoga and mantra chanting and puracharana and pranayama, dhyana, etc., it doesn't take much time. It just takes like 6 months to 1 year of some regular discipline and dedicating us some retreat from time to time, every day, regular anushtana, like practice. You will end up, you will, with the right kind of guidance, you will have some wonderful experience. It will be like a journey to a better and better state of mind and better peace and better happiness that you will get very fast. But to get some sublime experiences also can happen very, you know, mm, very easily. It is not that difficult at all. So we are not talking about the Ashtasiddhis and the miraculous psychic powers. That those are difficult. But to get some divine experiences, what uh, uh, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it's referred to with the term Vishoka. Vishoka va Jyotishmati. In that there is a word term called Vishoka. The lucid states of consciousness that are free from any kind of sorrow or limitation. The lucid and sublime states of consciousness. When you experience them as a result of meditation and as a result of upasana, that leaves a very powerful impression both in our mind and in our aura and in the vibration field around us, that does not allow the external forces to drag us into their circuit. So it helps us to maintain the integrity of our consciousness, and somehow in a very deep unconscious way, it helps us to have an unshakable faith in the words of the Shastra and the methodology of the tradition. So that helps us to stay committed, yeah, and to apply ourselves diligently to the methodology that is recommended for internalizing the truth about ourselves. So this is Sadhana Chatushtaya, the sixfold inner wealth that is part of the Sadhana Chatushtaya, the fourfold inner qualification. And before all, as a support of all this, one thing that will be absolutely helpful, fantastic help, would be Ishvara Pranidhana or Upasana. Take up one Upasana, one Devata, and try to do a lot of japa and concentrate and meditate on divine forms like Lord Shiva, Vishnu, etc. So these meditations combined with the mantra chanting and some vows like vratas and all that, they develop a huge field of protection around us, where all these random influences of this chaotic Kali Yuga life will not drag our unconscious mind. They are all like hooks. So we can talk more about this aspect in the next class. So this upasanas will help us a lot in building a fence around us. It's like when our spirituality is a small plant, it needs fence to grow. So the upasanas and the mantra japa and all that, they will, and the spiritual lifestyle, satsanga, these are all various kinds of fence that will protect this little spark that we have inside. Hmm? So these aspect we will discuss in the next class. So now it is already time. So make some notes, maybe listen to this again, and maybe we can have some discussions. If you have specific questions, you note down, and we can discuss those questions in the next class. So I'm sorry, this class was only a discourse and there was no discussion. I promise that in the next class, if you are coming with questions and some forethought and questions, we can have more discussion in the next class and less of my own blah blah. Okay. So with that, I will conclude today's class. Om Namah Parvati Pataye Har Har Mahadev. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vadishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.